Now we'll move on to a breakdown of the plot of episode 182nd. Before watching, don't forget to like, this helps. Han Li, having advanced to the Nascent Soul stage, still owed Huangfeng Valley a favor. At Ancestor Lingus' invitation, they made a deal one both sides preferred not to publicize. When the crisis truly arrived, Han Li would have to step out 3 times and assist Huangfeng Valley at decisive moments. As he escorted Elder Lu Luo of the Luoyan sect, Lu Luo cautiously asked how the meeting had gone. He studied Han Li's face as if trying to read an answer from it. Han Li calmly replied that nothing special had happened, only some talk about old matters. Lu Luo visibly relaxed, smiled, and exchanged a few more words before leaving. He departed together with Huolong Tongzi, heading toward another tower nearby. Han Li inferred that the two likely held some position within the Heavenly Dao Alliance. Back in his own tower, Han Li soon saw that far more Nascent Soul cultivators had arrived for the Second Council. Besides the elders of the righteous and demonic factions, a number of old rogue cultivators also appeared. This clearly unsettled Wu Peng of the Pai sect and Madame Qi of Ghost Shadow Gate. In the end, the Nine Nations Alliance had to accept the conditions set by the gathered powerhouses. The key point was that any dangerous assignments for the strongest cultivators would be divided evenly among the 4 sides. This was meant to prevent schemes where one faction used the chaos of war to borrow a knife and eliminate rivals. After further debate, the Heavenly Dao Alliance decided to dispatch reinforcements from its sects as well. Each sect would send either one Nascent Soul Elder or several core formation cultivators. Because the distance was long, the reinforcements could only reach Tiantian City after some time. Until then, Lu Luo and the others already present had to obey the Nine Nations Alliance's command. Their task was simple: hold the line against the Mulan advance and buy time. Once the main reinforcements arrived, these early defenders would be allowed to return to their sections. When the meeting ended, Huolong Tongzi and Lu Luo received their postings and left for the front. Han Li and 2 other Nascent Soul cultivators, along with 7 or 8 core formation cultivators, were sent to the border of Yu country. They were to defend a strategic node protected by a major formation one the enemy would have to break to advance. There were over a dozen such fortified points along the route. If the Mulan army could not clear them, it could not stabilize its gains. The Nine Nations Alliance lacked the strength for a decisive open battle, so it relied on terrain and large formations. Otherwise, Mulan's high-level mage-riding flying shields could reach Tiantian City in barely a month. The place Han Li was assigned to had previously been held by a single Nascent Soul cultivator, barely enough in normal times. But this time, the Mulan push was far more intense, and one defender was nowhere near sufficient. Han Li's 2 companions were Elder Ma of the Howren Pavilion and Gu Shuangpu of the Yuling sect. Elder Ma was thin and looked like a refined Taoist, but he had a lively, talkative nature. Gu Shuangpu, crow-faced and dressed in green, was silent and gloomy, and the spirit beast pouch at his waist felt ominous. All 3 were early Nascent Soul, so none felt an obvious advantage over the others. Fearing the enemy would arrive first, they chose to rush ahead, leaving the lower cultivators behind. Elder Ma cracked jokes the whole way, as if he were sightseeing rather than heading to war. After more than half a month, on Huanglong Mountain, a burly man with sparse brows paced anxiously in a hall. A red streak of light flew in an urgent message talisman, and his face darkened after he listened. He rang a small green bell, its clear chime echoing across the mountain. Within moments, lights flared in the surrounding pavilions as cultivators moved into position. Soon, dense green mist rose around Huanglong Mountain, turning the surroundings into a vast sea of fog. 4 core formation cultivators, 3 men, and a woman entered the hall, all wearing grave expressions. The woman questioned whether it was a false alarm, since the Mulan forces were supposedly held back. The burly man replied coldly that the report came from Puta Daoist himself, and he had been badly wounded. The remnants of the defeated forces and the pursuers would arrive. Soon there was no time to hope for help. But another message arrived, and the man's expression shifted. Reinforcements had come. 3 Nascent Soul cultivators had reached the formation, and he ordered the others to go out and receive them. Outside the green fog, Han Li and the 2 elders hovered in the air, examining the formation in silence. The The fog split open in a bright glow, forming a clean passage, but Elder Ma and Gu Shuangpu stayed cautious. Han Li alone wore a faint, calm smile as he waited. For golden streaks flew out from the passage 3 men and 1 woman who came to greet them formally. A middle-aged Taoist introduced himself as Chongyun Taoist of the Qingshu sect, alongside the Murong brothers of Huangfeng Valley and a young woman, Liangning. Han Li introduced himself as an elder of the Luoyun sect, along with Elder Ma of Howren Pavilion and Elder Gu of Yuling sect. He added that the other core formation cultivators were still on the way, and they had rushed ahead to avoid delays. Once inside, the grim-faced Commander Lu received them, thanked them, and admitted the situation was critical. 2 Mulan contingents had already smashed Tiantai Valley's defenses, and the survivors were fleeing this way. Elder Ma volunteered to intercept them, eager to test a newly acquired treasure, and the Murong brothers were sent with him. Han Li was led to a quiet tower by Li Yingning, who asked about an elder sister she had not seen in years. Han Li, noticing familiar traces in her features, questioned her about her mother and origins. Li Yingning said her mother was Mo Yuzhu from Yukuntrian, that she carried a white jade pendant since childhood. When she produced the pendant, it flew into Han Li's hand as if pulled by an unseen thread. Han Li stroked it and sighed, as though an entire past had returned in an instant. He told her she should now understand who he was, and asked what her mother had said about the pendant's giver. Li Yingning admitted her mother had spoken little, only that it was a gift from a cultivator friend. Han Li explained he had joined the Luoyun sect only recently, which was why she had never heard rumors of him. He then gave her 2 bottles of pills useful for core formation breakthroughs. Li Yingning accepted them with bright gratitude, calling him Martial Uncle Han. Han Li judged her flying dagger inadequate for the current danger, but she had no time to refine a new treasure. So Han Li released part of his 3-colored devouring gold beetle swarm, condensed it into a glowing sphere, and handed it to her. He told her to keep it safe if she met an enemy she could not handle. Throwing the sphere could save her life. Shocked and deeply grateful, Li Yingning accepted the gift, her last doubts about him vanishing completely. Han Li then dismissed her and began meditating to restore his depleted power. In his quiet room, he conjured a violet flame refined from pale blue icy fire and the cold breath of a 6-winged creature. This violet extremity flame was one of his strongest killing moves, though limited in quantity by how much source flame he had refined. Silver Moon praised its growth and potential, but Han Li noted he could not rely on it alone. A message talisman suddenly arrived. Elder Ma had returned, and the Mulan were close. Han Li went to the main hall, where the situation reports confirmed the enemy's pressure was heavier than expected. Soon after, war drums thundered in the distance. The Mulan army had reached them almost immediately. Above the sea of green mist, an enormous formation of Mulan mages hovered on bizarre flying devices. At the front stood over a dozen high-level mages, 3 of whom were especially striking, one wreathed in red light, with a thick serpent coiled around him, one unnaturally tall and thin, and one cloaked in black mist with ghostly wailing. The red-lit mage descended as a blazing fireball and proposed a lethal duel. Lu accepted, and Elder Ma flew up to fight first. Elder Ma revealed a 5-colored, scroll-like ancient treasure, the Taishin Bagua diagram. The opponent's serpent transformed into a Nognanu Dracon, an embodied fire spirit that had taken shape. Elder Ma used the Bagua diagram to unleash a massive formation image from the sky, trapping the fire mage inside. But because he did not fully understand the treasure, he had to drive it brutally with raw power, consuming himself rapidly. Inside, the fire mage endured and counterattacked with overwhelming flame, ultimately bursting out. The Bagua diagram was shredded into a sieve-like ruin. Elder Ma's treasure was effectively destroyed. Both sides were badly drained, and the duel was declared a draw. Then the black-robed mage descended and announced the next fight would be to the death. Lu and Gu Shuangpu hesitated. 2 Nascent Soul cultivators had already died to these strange mages. Han Li calmly stepped forward and said he would face him. As Han Li approached, the black-robed mage's eyes turned from black to an eerie green. Black mist rose like ink, ghost cries filled the air, and the surroundings felt like a netherworld. Han Li asked bluntly, "Are you a demon or a ghost?" The black-robed mage sneered, then transformed his body, swelling into a tall monster with horns and fangs. Through Han Li's clear, bright spirit eyes, the monstrous face became sharply visible. For the first time, Han Li's expression turned heavy because the creature's form matched exactly one of the demonic phantoms he had once seen in the Six Paths' true demon art.